Tesla has revolutionized the car industry with safer, faster, more efficient, technologically superior cars that can run on sustainable energy and even drive themselves. Could all of these benefits be applied to the trucking industry? Yes, this is the Tesla Semi, and there's a lot more to it than its phallic name. Let's discuss with Brian White of Futuraza. Hello, Brian. How are you?
That was a magnificent opening. I love it. I'm doing great. It's good to see you.
Just briefly, the Tesla Semi already exists, if anyone didn't know that. It's been trialed and tested by a handful of companies. It can travel 500 miles between charges, despite Bill Gates declaring that that was an impossibility at the time. And the factory that it's going to be built in the tens of thousands at is tooling up for production as we speak. So what's so good about the Tesla Semi, Brian, when compared to a diesel truck, for example?
Fantastic. Those are great questions. So the history of the truck is that they made two for the rollout, for the demo back in 2017. And we didn't know when it was coming or how it was coming, but we got to see them testing it internally. They would use it to deliver vehicles from time to time. They would use it to move batteries from the factory in Nevada out to the Fremont factory. And then over time, we'd see them build a few more and a few more. And as of last count, there was something like 50 or 100 deployed. And they sent them out to companies like Pepsi / Frito-Lay. And so, well, they're only moving lightweight potato chips. Yes, but they're also moving soft drinks, which are very heavy. So the 500 miles, this is impossible. You can't do it. Everybody else was saying, we hope to make trucks that can do 350 miles, but 500, the CEO of Daimler Trucking even said, I think it was Daimler Trucking or maybe just Daimler generally said, look, 500 miles sounds great, but it can't be done. Not with 2 kilowatt hours per mile. That is a level of efficiency that cannot be achieved. If Tesla can do it, we'll buy 2, one to use ourselves and one to tear down. But I'm pretty sure physics works the same in Germany as it does in the US. Well, here we are. And the efficiency is better than 2 kilowatt hours per mile. In tests, it has turned out anywhere from 1.6 to 1.7. That's a 15 to 20% improvement over the original proposed specs. It has one of the smaller batteries of any of the large trucks, and yet it has more range. It is working out pretty well. You asked what the advantages are, where to begin. The first advantage is, let's talk about brakes. You know, when big rigs go downhill, they have to use their friction brakes, which creates a lot of dust and a lot of wear and tear, or they use the motor itself, or they use Jake brakes, where they basically open the exhaust and it's very, very loud. All of those are mitigated because with a motor like this, when you go downhill, you recover range. And they've shown in tests on the highway that they get to the hill and they go up it and you can see, oh my gosh, it's consuming so much juice. Well, if you're running diesel, you're still consuming a whole lot of power getting up that hill. The difference is when you get to the downslope, you're going to recharge the battery. So you don't have brake fade, you don't have brake failure, and you gain extra efficiency. The next thing is they're very quiet. Add to that, they're very smooth. They are comfortable. They are easy to drive. They are easier likely than any truck. If you've driven a Tesla, which I know you have, the Tesla I have, when I got behind the wheel, all I could say is this is the easiest car I've ever driven. And the truckers that I've had the opportunity to speak to say that Tesla Semi is more of the same. And then you can add to that electricity is generally cheaper than diesel. That saves you as well. So it wins on almost every metric, with the only downside being that if you really needed to haul all the way across country, right now there are no mega chargers to stop at and quickly charge, and that you can't fill up quite as quickly as you can with diesel.
Yeah, so that's the plan, isn't it? Eventually, to get enough mega chargers out there to be on these popular routes and just charge up. What is it? I think it's 30 minutes to 70%, something like that.
It's something like that. Yes.
Yeah, and there's also the they've managed to get a feature in the Semi that doesn't allow for jackknifing as well. That was in the original presentation. I'm not sure we've seen any demos of that, but that is certainly on the cards.
That was something that they had said would happen, and it would make sense because you've got a motor on all 3 axles.
Yeah,
the traction control on your 4-wheel drive Tesla is exceptional. So it would make sense to me. I haven't seen it tested, and we haven't heard much about it in a while.
And of course, with Tesla's recent autonomy breakthrough with FSD version 13, and the looking tantalizingly close to totally being solved, we can expect to see this going straight to the Tesla Semi, or not straight to it, but with time it'll be rolled onto the Semi as well, won't it? So that's going to have massive implications too, just for the drivers themselves, and the convoys, or platooning, is it called?
Yes.
Talk about the FSD implications.
Of course. This is, to me, the most exciting part. We have seen them out with LiDAR doing ground truthing, where they're testing the FSD capabilities. I imagine it will start the same way it starts with cars, with highway-only autopilot, and then just inch forward from there. I imagine there will be some regulatory hurdles, and when it comes to getting rid of the driver completely, the hurdles will be even greater. At that point, you don't even need something that looks like what you would think of as a big rig truck. It would be just a skateboard with a wind diffuser on the front. It could then be even farther back, so the overall length of the vehicle's even shorter than ever before. But all of those remain to be seen. Anyone who's had an opportunity to use even the free autopilot that comes with every Tesla knows how amazing it is to do long trips on the highway without having to stress out about micromanaging every minute detail of lane keeping, of speed. You don't have to, it frees up your mind. I've done a number of 10, 12-hour drives in a Tesla using FSD, but it wouldn't matter because autopilot would do the trick. I'm mostly on the highway. And when I arrive, I don't feel fried in the brain where I need to take a whole day off to recover, to restore my sanity. No, I'm just, a bit tired, ready to have dinner and go to sleep. That's the first thing you'll want. Truckers are in short supply. Everybody is hiring because the job doesn't pay as much as it used to. 40 years ago, it was a decent living. Now it is a pretty lean living. If you could do something to incentivize drivers to participate in the workforce at your company, you would do it. Now you've got a truck that's going to cost less per mile to operate, and drivers who will prefer to drive your trucks over someone else's. The benefits just keep compounding. And while you could say, great, but you're going to put all these truckers out of work, it is likely that truckers will continue to retire faster than they can be replaced, by autonomous trucks. If autonomous is ready to go today, it would still take 20 years to phase out all those trucks.
Something I wanted to mention that we brought up last time we were talking about this semis. Approximately 10% of vehicles in the US are medium to heavy duty trucks, but they account for around 25% of the transportation sector's greenhouse gas emissions in the US. But that's just part one of the benefits to switching trucks to electric. Now, play along with me here. But if all vehicles and the energy sector ran on sustainable energy from solar, wind, batteries, and yes, that would be an enormous undertaking, but it's in the realm of possibilities. Just how much of today's heavy-duty transportation of oil, gas, petrol, coal, etc., would disappear from container ships, trains, wagons, the trucking industry? I think that's a point worth touching on.
So there's some misunderstandings about how efficient electricity is compared to fossil fuel. A lot of studies I've seen try to compare the entire life cycle of the vehicle plus all the power generation to just the tailpipe emissions of an internal combustion engine. And that's dishonest. You have to count the exploration, the mining, the transportation, the refining, the next leg of transportation, and then the tailpipe. All of that adds more losses along the way. And what's crazy is I did the math in a video a month or two ago about how much electricity is used, how much power is consumed in the refinement of gasoline. And the answer is, if every car in the US was on electricity, just what we use today, refining it into gasoline, would give you 2 full charges per year. But because we have so much fewer vehicles on the road that are electric today, it would give you something like 700 fill-ups per year. Of course, that math wouldn't work. You'd need all the vehicles, and then what are you doing with the gas? But refining gasoline is an energy intensive process, and somehow that's just not factored into the energy savings.
Yeah, let alone the transportation of it. There's so much to consider there, isn't there? So
yes, but there's, wind power has bird strikes. Yes, it does. Wind farms do kill birds. It kills like 1% as many as house cats do. Literally.
Yes, literally.
For real. Yeah. And there is a margin at which that population will recover each year, and the number of bird strikes is very low. Whereas with coal or diesel or gasoline, any of the other power sources, there are also health consequences. Do you want your children to breathe the air downwind from a coal plant? No, of course not. That's why the UK closed their last coal plant when?
Yeah, just a few months ago.
Congratulations.
So far, the lights have stayed on.
The US also has a fair amount, and actually all of North America has a fair amount of hydropower. And if you're looking at developing markets like Brazil has, I don't know if you've heard, quite a bit of hydropower. That's where the Amazon is, and many other rivers. South America has good hydroelectric resources. So yeah, there are plenty of ways to get the job done.
Discussing the semi, then we mentioned we touched on the fact that the factory is in progress right now, and you expect something like 50,000 to be a ballpark figure of production once it's ramped, possibly even more. Who are the next customers going to be, do you think, for the Tesla Semi?
A bit ago you said they'll need to add mega chargers along the interstate routes, the main corridors, in order to meet all the transportation needs. So in the first phase, you're not going to even try to do that. You're going to look at customers who have hub to spoke kind of operations. So from the port to your warehouse, from your distribution center out to your local other, suppliers, whatever it may be. Places where you can put in your own chargers at one or both ends. So, for example, Tesla's been using it to run from Reno, the greater Reno area, Sparks, closer to Sparks where the factory is, out to Fremont. They have chargers at both ends. Problem solved. We don't need mega chargers. Why would we? The route is shorter than 500 miles. That's the first round of customers. Who does that include? Well, Amazon. If it's over 500 miles, Amazon is probably going to be shipping it by another method, maybe not, but 500 miles is quite a reasonable distance for a lot of big companies. Walmart is another example. A lot of things may come in by rail, and then from that distribution center go out to all of the stores in the greater area. Those are the kind of customers.
Excellent. So let's touch on the Semi becoming a global product as well then. Whilst it's not yet been deployed in Europe, it has been seen out and about with the assumption that the groundwork has been laid for its introduction. So, regulatory compliance, I suppose, market adaptation, and expanding production capabilities are all things that we can expect to see elsewhere. So, what are your thoughts on the global expansion of it?
So, if you look at a country like Australia, they have this weird requirement that trucks like that need to be, I think, 2 inches narrower than they are in the US, something crazy like that, which kept US truck makers out. I imagine it was done as a protectionist policy back when Australia was making their own big rig trucks, but now they don't. China filled that gap. So the 2 ways you can get into that market is either make a narrower truck, which is quite difficult, or you know what, maybe we should just change the road rules. And what we've seen in some countries around the world is rather than forcing all the manufacturers to make trucks that fit our weird little market, why don't we just expand to allow trucks that are already made because we need them and they're here. Will this work in Australia, for example? Well, I wouldn't be super excited about going all the way around the continent with it. It gets pretty desolate out there pretty quickly. but you could have megacharger depots, I suppose. And the 500 miles of range is chosen on purpose. In the US, at least, there are, in most states, a trucker can only drive 10 hours a day. Some states it might be 11, but 10 is a good maximum. So 500 miles, you're going to get most of that in 6, 7, 8 hours. You're going to stop and take a break for 30 minutes. And then when you get in to go again, you've got more than enough juice to hit your 10-hour limit or 11-hour limit. And it's chosen on purpose to fill that need. This will get you as far as you need to go, and then you're done for the day. What countries need this? Well, all of them. Bear in mind, Tesla's not the only company making trucks. They're not the only company that has them on the road. I think Mercedes has some. BYD has some that might not be quite as big. There are port haulers. I forget what they're called, the little ones that move containers around at ports. Freightliner, eCascadia, Mack Truck even has a electric garbage truck. There are other players on the market. Nikola, of course, has sold a record 202, I think, last year.
Yeah.
So there are other options out there, but none of them that I'm aware of have this kind of range or this kind of efficiency. The only question is, what is the price? And the answer to that is we don't know, but the customers do, and they can make that decision for themselves.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you think the chances are as well of all those people that managed to refer customers to Tesla and were promised a Semi? I know Zach and Jesse are still patiently waiting for their Semi one day. What are the chances of that?
Low. Very low. The early sales are all going to go to fleet buyers, because the nice thing about fleet buyers is I've got one person to deal with for 100 trucks instead of 100 people to deal with. If I buy it, they're going to say, oh, he's going to need a mega charger. We don't have enough to sell right now. He's not going to get permits. This is going to be a headache. He's going to make, he's going to complain. He's going to want to give it back. If it's someone like Zach and Jesse, they would just level 2 charge it. We'll only drive it once a month if we have to. I don't know that Tesla would be eager to sell to individual customers just because the network isn't there to support it. So once you get through all those first wave customers, of which it's a lot, it is more than they can make in a few years, then you start worrying about getting mega chargers out there. I've seen people say, well, Tesla should get into the, travel center business where they're building rest areas with mega chargers and showers and restaurants. They don't need to. That is not their core competency. It is expensive. It is low margin. That is not something they can disrupt, and someone will step in to fill that gap. The factory they're building is large enough that I am confident it can someday make more than 50,000. But 50,000 is a good number for a few reasons. The entire U.S. semi-truck market is only 200 to 250,000 depending on the year. 20-25% market share is more than you can reasonably ask for. They can do it, but it's going to be tough. Add Canada and Mexico into that, it doesn't expand it by that much. Canada's not that big of a country in terms of population, and it is much more spread out. It might not be the best use case compared to many parts of the U.S. And in Mexico, I think the price might be prohibitive. The other factor on that is 50,000 trucks would require 40 gigawatt hours of batteries, which, for reference, was more than the entire global supply in 2017.
Oh, you beauty. That's quite an ask, isn't it? Yeah. I can't wait to see the semis popping out of that factory, which no doubt we will do soon enough. But if you have anything to add or questions for myself or Brian about the Semi, then please ask away in the comments below. Hopefully Brian will pop on there to see if there is any. And do check out the excellent Futurizer channel. Thanks so much, Brian. You've been a great help to me, and I always love talking to you. It's so much easier talking to you and asking you the questions. So yeah, thanks very much for being here. Yeah, here's another video that you might like next from me. Click away. I'm Will. This is the Tesla Jigsaw. Thank you, patrons. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.